3, 2, 1. And we welcome you back into Berea, home of the Cleveland Browns, and today, home to day 11 of training camp as the Browns work their way towards Thursday night's game with the Washington Redskins, preseason game number 1. I'm Jason Gibbs. He's Nick Shook. He's Andrew Gribble. Day number 11, we dodged the rain at the very end. The first time all camp we had a threat and got through it, and a spirited practice, some good moments, some moments where they kind of went into a little bit of a lull. Kind of had a nice little ending, though, at the very end, Nick Shook.
Very up and down practice. There were moments where Freddie Kitchens, again, created some adversity, completely went off script at one point and just threw in this period where they had the ball on their own 1 and had to get out from the shadow of their own goalposts. Spoiler alert, they didn't get out. So, that's a down point of it, but there were also some positives. They had a good red zone period right before that. They moved the ball well early. Late kind of did well, and Greg Joseph closed with a 44-yard field goal. So some good, some bad, but we avoided the ugly, which is the storm. So overall, not bad.
See, I thought there was a good play in that 1-yard line situation, and that was made by Jermaine Whitehead. I mean, I think the athleticism he showed to basically just pluck a pass out of the air from Baker Mayfield right at the line of scrimmage and just trot into the end zone. You watched Baker after that play. It was hard for him to even get mad about that. Like he kind of just shook his head and was just like, "Wow, can't believe that happened." Like that was an impressive play that just happened so fast. They're just like, "Wow, this guy's got some real talent to make that kind of play at the line of scrimmage." So I liked that, but yeah, I agree that if you have to get huddled a couple times during practice by Freddie, it's not going the way he wants it to go. But I thought it was, for stretches there, it was a really good practice. If you're into passing the ball inside the 20-yard line, they were getting a lot of stuff done, a lot of touchdowns, which we weren't used to seeing around here a few years ago.
Yeah, extremely efficient. Guys grabbing passes that you wouldn't even expect to catch passes. Ish Hyman over the middle caught a pass. Farrell Brown a touchdown pass, then handed it to John Dorsey, who was standing in the back of the end zone as he trotted by. Odell Beckham had a nice little route on the outside to catch a pass inside the pylon. You saw a lot of guys making plays like that. It was I think, one of the most successful offensive periods that they've had, I think, in all of camp. I mean, almost every pass is completed for a touchdown, so good to see.
Going back to that Whitehead play, it felt like he jumped about 4 feet off of the ground.
Yeah.
And it hit him almost at the waist.
Mm-hmm.
That's how high up he was. Got it in the air, able to come down with it, and walked into the end zone.
It's perfectly timed, and it was a great play for a guy who, I mean, at this point we have to say we're in day 11. He's never worked a single snap with anyone but the first-team defense.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's safe to say he's a starter on this team.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He did a good job of almost baiting Baker into that interception because, he kind of read the fake, slid in with the defense, but then floated right back out and was in perfect position to make the play. But you also have to have the athleticism to leap up and catch that pass successful and not drop it, and he did a good job of that.
Yeah, we'll talk to passing game coordinator and secondary coach Joe Witt coming up in just a few minutes. And he had fantastic praise for Whitehead and said everything that he's gotten, he's earned. From the time he stepped foot in here in the offseason, in OTAs, in minicamp, and all the way through training camp, when we all thought maybe, is this just a weekend? Is this a guy that's temporarily holding down the job?
I've written plenty of stories about some spring all-stars that don't usually pan out in the season, but this one looks like it's at least going to make it to September as a starter on this team.
Yeah, and it's a pretty impressive job by him, to say the least. Going back to the offense, we talked about a few of the big touchdowns in the red zone. Odell had a monster day, put on a little bit of a clinic with some of his receptions. Antonio Callaway has put together a few nice days here this week as well.
Yeah, and those kind of plays were happening at one point in camp today when I was talking with Jim Donovan, and he kind of looks at me and goes, when this offense really shows itself, they're going to be hard to stop. And those are the moments when you're like, yeah, I mean, when they are moving the ball like that in practice and really kind of showing you the full arsenal, that's when you get excited. And we've really gone through the majority of camp, actually, if not all of it, without the two best pass catchers out of the backfield with Duke Johnson and Kareem Hunt. They really haven't even been out there. Kareem Hunt's been working back in, but we haven't seen him much in team drills. So you don't even have the full arsenal out there yet, and there's just those moments where it kind of flashes and you realize that this could be a really dynamic team. And there were stretches today where we kind of saw this offense at its best so far.
And even then, without the guys like Duke Johnson and Kareem Hunt, it's afforded the opportunity for Nick Chubb to get a lot of reps as a pass-catching back, and he's shown that he can do that. I know we've discussed that before, but it seems with every day he just keeps improving in that regard to where you're taking him almost as much of a threat to catch the ball out of the backfield as you are as a traditional running back between the tackles, and he's solid all around. So then you think about those additions as well. And frankly, as soon as Odell Beckham lines up, you're already a more dangerous team because he's on the field and also because you have to pay so much attention to him that I don't even care who the other guys are. It could be Jarvis next to him, and that makes you even more dangerous, or it could be Derek Willis, and it could be Jalen Strong. They're still going to find their opportunities because Odell is on the field. And if you're really going to try and balance it out, then you're probably going to lose the matchup to Odell. So it's a scary combination for opposing defenses that I can't wait to see be unleashed on them come really the preseason and the regular season.
Another thing that you had mentioned yesterday, Gribbs, that we saw a lot more of today, and we continue to see more and more as we go, is the deep ball coming out.
Yeah,
and Baker's throwing some pretty dimes down the field.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a period there where it seemed like they were almost exclusively working on it. Like there was a lot thrown by Baker, but a lot thrown by the other cornerbacks too, with some mixed success. But yeah, I mean, Baker's arm looks really good. I think we had the first couple days.
Newsflash.
Yeah, I mean, we had a couple days early in camp where we're like, what's going on here? Like the timing was a little off. It seemed like he was a little, everything was getting overthrown a little bit. Well, whatever that was, they've worked it out. And most of his passes are where they need to be and are the kind of passes that you need to see, that you saw last year that made this offense so good. And the thing that I keep hearing from, I've been talking to a lot of these national reporters that drop in, it seems like every single one of them, they're taken aback by how fast he's getting the ball out. That's the thing that keeps getting brought up over and over again. I think we're numb to it. We see it a lot. But that's the thing that's really standing out to those people who are just dropping in for a day or two, is that what he's doing and the quickness in which he's getting it out is unique to the rest of the NFL.
It's funny you say that because I think we are numb to it since he's the guy we see throw the ball, and then it also makes the other quarterbacks on the roster who are good quarterbacks, they pale in comparison to him just because he's got such a unique delivery of the football. But NFL Network field producer Jason Hartelius has been in town since last week. So they came last week, then they stuck around for the Hall of Fame and everything there in this weekend in Canton, and then they came back up for more practice this week. So he's seen a lot of this in the last week, and he turned to me yesterday and just said, I might sound a little off base, or maybe it's just I'm in the moment, but the ball just looks different coming out of his hand, and it's special. Like, it's something that's rare. You don't see it, and it kind of takes you're taken aback when you see it happen. I was like, I totally agree. And then, of course, moments later, he throws that touchdown pass to Derek Willis, and it explains itself right there in front of you. So it's exciting because as we all know, this is a team that hasn't had a really reliable quarterback in a long time, and he's a special one.
Can I get a right guard update? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so Eric Kush got another start today with the ones. It doesn't come. None of these have come in a complete vacuum. Saturday he was with the ones, but it was more of a rotational thing with it being the scrimmage. Yesterday he was with the ones, but it would have been his day if you didn't count in Saturday. But today should have been Austin Corbett's day if we were going with the traditional rotation. It was not. Kyle Kalis, this is the wrinkle, he left during individual, and Austin Corbett was forced to play second and third team center, so that might have had a little something to do with it. But after practice, when Freddie was asked about it, he was pretty straight up that, no, I think Kush is in the lead if we have to declare someone who's in the lead. They like him. They like what they've seen from him both in this camp and in prior seasons, both in Chicago and Kansas City and his preseason with the Rams that one year. And that's why they brought him here. Dorsey's a big fan of him. Kush is a big fan of Dorsey. I think it's a good pairing so far, and I think it's paying off. He's played pretty well so far. I think he's earned, at least to this point, the shot to be with the ones.
Should we be concerned, Gribble, about Denzel Ward?
I mean, if you're trying to win the game Thursday, maybe, but I'm not worried about it long term.
Okay.
Especially because you watched the rest of practice after the Hyman deep ball where that was his last play of practice. He didn't go anywhere. He was on the sidelines the whole time. Was with the military after today's practice for a good half an hour. If it was something serious, he wouldn't have been on the sidelines or doing all that stuff today. So I think it's just a tweak here or there. This happens with
Something
DBs all the
tightened up.
times. Do I think he might not play Thursday? I'm sure that's a good possibility. I'm sure that's a good possibility with a lot of players on this team. So if you wanted to beat the Redskins, that might be one less player that's going to be out there. But long term, I think you're fine.
I think it's interesting, and my big question in my mind is how many guys are actually not going to play on Thursday night, because the list is pretty big of the guys that aren't practicing, didn't practice yesterday, and didn't practice today.
That was going to be my point is if you look at the amount of guys who are just in jerseys and shorts right now, I mean, what do you gain? You gain a little bit of in-game reps, and you get to hit somebody who's not wearing the same color helmet and everything else from a preseason game. But otherwise, you don't gain that much. What's the point of putting these guys out there?
I don't know. Joe Thomas said yesterday, I'd play him a quarter. Play the starters a quarter.
But I could also see them just not playing them at all. If there's any type of injury that you could see being exacerbated by something that could happen in a game, you do not play him. So I think we're going to see a decent amount of starters not playing Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't even get a hard confirmation that Baker's playing or Odell.
Correct.
I mean, and I think the last time Odell's played in the preseason was here when he got injured.
And the rest of his year was messed up because of
that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just one of those things where I almost think you view next week's practices as a game itself before the game. So I almost view maybe the second preseason game as maybe the more likely time you see some of these guys out there. And some of these guys were going to play, but they're just banged up, and they're not going to do it because of that. And then when you – especially on a Baker perspective, I know the offensive line is really healthy, but say you were banged up a little bit on the offensive line, you're not putting your franchise quarterback out there. So it's like a chain reaction. So, I mean, it'll be interesting to see who actually does play. Maybe someone like a Christian Kirksey goes out and plays because he hasn't played in half a year since midway through last season. Maybe he's someone that you want to get out there, get moving, and then just some other spot starters. But otherwise, this might be a game for you to start really evaluating what do you have in Garrett Gilbert? Is he going to be your third-string quarterback? Just a lot of other smaller areas that aren't as important to fans but are still important in constructing a 53-man roster.
All right, before we put today to bed, anybody that stood out to you defensively not named Whitehead?
I mean, Mack Wilson. I mean, he just keeps making plays.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, he just keeps getting interceptions. I mean, I don't want my linebacker to lead the team in interceptions, but I think he does during training camp. He's making a lot of plays and getting noticed. And I think that for a linebacker especially, you got to start standing out if you're on a team that's using two linebackers the majority of the time like the Browns are. So I think you're at least seeing from Mack Wilson the potential and athleticism that made him a perceived higher draft pick. Now it's just going to be a matter of how good is he on special teams, how consistent can he be, and he's someone that you're going to see a lot of in these preseason games.
I sound like a broken record, but it's got to be Terrence Mitchell again. I mean, he just continues to play really tight coverage. He's playing very, very well. He drew a flag today on what I thought was a bad call of pass interference. It was like right in front of me. So I asked the official afterwards, I said, hey, was he early? And he said, yeah, he was early. And I don't know. It was pretty close.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those plays where in a real game it's probably bang, bang, and they let it go as a PBU, and then you look at the replay. Yeah, now we can review it. By the way, we got to test that in the Hall of Fame game the other night. Very strange. I don't know how I'm going to adjust to that. But Terrence has had a good string of practices. I mean, he's playing like a guy who's very motivated. And I expect him to be motivated, and I expect him to continue to succeed. Especially when he gets to go against Odell Beckham on a daily basis, because that's only going to make him better.
I mean, based on what we've seen at practice so far, I feel like if you had a game tomorrow that you're playing all your best players, I would imagine he's going to be starting somewhere.
Yeah, he's got to be. And he's definitely on the field on second and third down,
sure,
without a doubt.
I think it's interesting. Last week, Taki making all the news and making some plays and turning some heads, and this week, Mack Wilson, two guys that I definitely think we'll be excited to see and will get a lot of playing time on Thursday night. That's what happened day 11 of Browns training camp. He's Andrew Gribble. He's Nick Shook. I'm Jason Gibbs. We will join you again on Friday after Friday's practice and after preseason game number 1. This has been the best podcast available.